fever, cough, congestion. When the symptoms keep coming, but you've got to keep going, you can rely on Mucinex Fast Max All-in-One. Just one dose of Mucinex Fast Max All-in-One relieves up to 9 cold and flu symptoms, helping you get on with your day. Need cold and flu relief? Get Mucinex Fast Max All-in-One and Done Relief. It's comeback season. Use as directed.
Rated T to M. Hey, want to hear a PC Game Pass ad? I'll take your silence as a yes. Want new games on day one like Call of Duty Black Ops 6 or Stalker 2? I thought so. How about unlocking all the League of Legends champions when you link your Riot Games account? All for one low monthly price? Well, guess what? We got you. Learn more at xbox.com/PC Game Pass or click the banner. Stalker 2 available November 20th, 2024. Game catalog varies by region and over time. And that's the end of the script.
Atheists, agnostics, long-haired weirdos, short-haired weirdos, vandals, hooligans.
The government, hug the government, love the government, hug the government, love the government, hug the government.
Welcome to The Politics Guys, a place for bipartisan, rational, and civil debate on American politics and policy. I'm Northern Kentucky University political scientist Michael Baranowski. I'm joined today by my conservative counterpart, Cleveland area attorney and defender of freedom, Jay Carson.
Hey, good morning, Mike.
Hey, Jay. So, as always, there is plenty of stuff we have to talk about that we didn't get a chance to get to on the regular show. But before we do that, I want to start this episode, this supporters episode, with a special shout out to Bruce Johnson. Bruce, I believe, was our first executive producer over like 7 years ago now at this point. He ended his support not too long ago, and I just wanted to publicly express our just really deep gratitude for his very generous support over so many years. So, Bruce, I'm not sure if you're still listening, but if you are, thank you so much. What you've done for us over so many years has really helped out a tremendous amount. And now that Bruce is no longer an executive producer, that means we do have an opening. So in the coming year, what I'm hoping to do is to give our executive producers additional opportunities to provide feedback, kind of help chart the future course of the Politics Guys. I'm thinking that'll include maybe Zoom sessions for any executive producer that wants to do that, or as well as some EP exclusive updates and what we got in the works, that sort of thing. And, you know, there are some of our executive producers I talk with multiple times every week, and there are some like Bruce who I just never heard from. Here, take my money and just do your thing. And that, whatever you want to do, that's fine. But if it's something you're interested in, I hope you'll consider it. And, you know, you can check that out on Patreon, or if you have any questions, just ask me. And so there you go. So again, thank you so much, Bruce. So I think, Jay, what I wanted to start with is something a little different. Normally, when we have issues related to transgender type stuff, that's kind of May's ballywick. And so I talked with her about this. But November 20th was the 25th International Transgender Day of Remembrance. And so kind of on that anniversary, you know, it memorializes that folks who've been murdered as a result of transphobia. It also marks the end of Transgender Awareness Week, which is, you know, intended to, raise awareness about transgender people and the issues that they face. Estimates of the number of transgender people in the U.S. tend to vary, but the most commonly cited one is from the Williams Institution at UCLA's law school. It puts it at around 1.6 million transgender people over the age of 13, which is roughly 0.6% of the U.S. population, and 1.4% of minors between the age of 13 and 17. And that actually tracks with similar results from the CDC and Gallup. And one of these transgender people will be serving the 119th Congress. That's Delaware Democrat Sarah McBride, who is the first openly transgender person to ever serve in Congress. And in response to this, Republican Representative Nancy Mace of South Carolina introduced a resolution to ban transgender women from the women's bathrooms at the Capitol. And then later, after that resolution was introduced, Speaker Mike Johnson announced that he is banning transgender women from using women's bathrooms, changing rooms, and locker rooms at the Capitol. And in response to this, McBride posted on X, "I'm not here to fight about bathrooms. I'm here to fight for Delawareans." Delawareans, okay. and to bring down costs facing families. Like all members, I will follow the rules as outlined by Speaker Johnson, even if I disagree with them. I guess, Jay, I'm wondering what you think about, I'm sure you like McBride's response, but I'm wondering what you think about Mace's resolution and Johnson's action, and just in general, any thoughts you have on this?
I would say it's a little bit of, if you want to call it conservative virtue, I don't know, performative art, I guess a little bit. This is an issue for lots of people, for lots of reasons, in lots of different spaces, right? I mean, one's the athletic space, the other is having to do with kids and diagnoses and school sharing of information and all these. And I think those are legitimate, important issues. To me, the Capitol bathrooms, which probably did not seem to be a problem before, I think it's just kind of grandstanding on the part of Mace. I guess, I mean, if you're the speaker, at some point you do have to make some sort of rules. And I suppose that's, I don't think the rules are necessarily inappropriate, but I think that I see this more as this was just a grandstanding thing as opposed to policy, if you will, right?
Well, I think for some, I think for Mike Johnson, maybe a little, because he had to say something. He had to do something. And his options were basically to say that, Representative McBride can use whatever bathroom she wants. There's no way he could say that. Or, well, we're going to put some rules in place. And he kind of had to say that. And so yeah. But there are some in the Republican caucus who...
But my point is it's not something that I would think would have worthy of a resolution.
Gotcha. Okay, like what Mace did. Because, I mean, you got Mace and you have Marjorie Taylor Greene and basically saying that, well, these people, that's not me. These people are mentally ill, essentially. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene said he, misgendering McBride, he's mentally ill. He's a biological male pretending to be a woman. I think Mace has said that she feels like if McBride's allowed into women's bathrooms, it feels like a kind of assault. And to me, immediately, I thought, do they no longer have stalls in these bathrooms? But okay, fine, whatever. I mean, there's certainly a performative element, but it feels to me like there are a not insignificant number of Republicans who legitimately feel like this is like some sort of super scary, real threat to them, which kind of flies in the face of all the research we have on this sort of thing. But there it is. So I think in part, I'm not saying that it's not a fear of some folks. It is, and some people are just doing it performatively. But I think it's almost entirely an irrational fear. That doesn't not make it a fear, it just makes it harder to kind of deal with, I guess, in sort of a rational way.
Yeah, this is one of those areas where, to some extent, I'm not qualified to discuss it, right? Does having a biological male in a woman's bathroom, does that make women uncomfortable? I think some women it certainly would. I think my wife would be uncomfortable if she was at a public bathroom and with a biological male. So I'm not in a position where I can put myself into the place of either the trans person going into the bathroom or the non-trans people there and how they feel. So I guess that's, Mike, it's one of those, I would come down on the side of the, tradition of look, this is how we've worked this out for, quite some time, that we have different bathrooms and you use the one that's assigned, to your biological sex as opposed to your identified gender. In fact, you would say some of the fixtures in those places are even built to accommodate that. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I guess I'm not sure how to respond, or even if I ought to respond, really, as far as I don't know if other congresswomen feel uncomfortable, threatened, or something. I don't necessarily see that there would be a threat, but
because it's kind of ironic.
I guess I can conceive how there could be someone might be uncomfortable.
it's kind of ironic to me because traditionally I've always thought of the Republican Party as the sort of has presented itself as a sort of anti-snowflake party, right? And that, oh my God, everything is this awful threat. And traditional Republicans, I expect just to say, just toughen up already, suck it up.
For one, I sort of cringe anytime someone talks about some policy thing and says, this is dangerous, or, you know what I mean? I was like, oh, geez. Yeah, most things aren't dangerous.
How about some fresh out of the oven gingerbread, bright snowdrop, fresh Iowa pine, and cool peppermint to put you in the holiday cleaning spirit? Made with goodness, not a lot of nonsense. Mrs. Meyer's. See what good can grow. Visit mrsmeyers.com today.
Feel your max with Brooks Running and the all-new Ghost Max 2. They're the shoes you deserve, designed to streamline your stride and help protect your body. Treat yourself to feel-good landings on an ultra-high stack of super comfy nitrogen-infused cushion that takes the edge off every step, every day. The Brooks Ghost Max 2. You know, technically, they're a form of self-care. Brooks, let's run there. Head to brooksrunning.com to learn more.
But I think there's a larger issue here is that, and you have people with pretty significant platforms like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others saying that this is a mental illness. And so we're not allowing this because it essentially encourages mentally ill people to be mentally ill and not to seek some sort of help, right? And I'm assuming that you don't agree with the sort of default assumption that if you're transgender, your transgenderism is a mental illness, because there's a distinction I think important to make is that there are plenty of transgender people, I believe higher than sort of the non-trans population, who struggle with various mental illness issues, not because they are transgender, because of the societal reactions to their being transgendered, right? The discrimination, threats of violence, actual acts of violence against them, that can screw with anyone's head, certainly, as opposed to it being, the transgender, the gender dysmorphia being some sort of a mental illness that needs to be fixed with, whatever conversion therapy or something like that. I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying there?
Yeah. Well, I'm not qualified to weigh in on any of that. I expect that there are some people in the trans community who are mentally ill, and there's some who aren't, just like it is in everywhere else. So I'm not going to get into causes or what caused what and who's who's sane, who's not sane. Let's put it this way. I think that type of rhetoric isn't helpful in any event. And here's and I guess, Mike, this is where it's difficult for me, that there's a part of me that can very much say, look, I don't care who goes into the ladies' room in the Capitol. And it really doesn't, it's not going to affect my daily life. It's not going to do any, as I said, I suppose that's up to the people who use it. I would be more concerned if someone said there were biological males sharing the same bathroom, high school locker rooms with my daughter, right? And I don't think that's unreasonable. And I think that's a big piece in this whole debate that I think a lot of times liberals miss out on, as I think there's a tremendous distinction between adults and non-adults when it comes to these issues.
And people certainly are going to be protective of anything. It's overprotective of anything. It's going to be of their kids, and understandably so. And so I think you're right. It's different whether we're talking about adults and kids, just because of the intensity of the emotion people feel about, but just as you described.
And also I think there are kids, some kids have a more, I don't know. I'm not going to go into there was a period of time a couple years ago, in one of my daughters, this was in middle school, where she was sort of the only one of the very few handful who was identifying as cis, I guess that's how you would call it.
Cisgender.
And in a lot of cases, kids don't know if they, I don't know.
I understand. I will make
a lot of other pressures going on. And that's what tends to trouble me when it comes to a lot of these trans issues is kids and then things like the fairness and the sports bit, which I think, again, that's a
separate issue. Sure. And and you and I'd be more likely to, and I guess what I'm hearing you saying is that, because I think my view is that essentially that there's nothing wrong with, I don't think there's anything wrong with healthy exploration of gender identity and gender roles, but there's a difference between allowing that and then pushing someone into a certain role, whether it's a traditional
or I mean, there are concerns, for
role.
example, I mentioned earlier about sharing of information, right? Of some schools that then have policies that they won't share information with parents if their child wants to be identified as some other gender, and I think that's a gross violation of the school's duty to parents and likely to the students as well. But those are.
I guess I'll point out that
for grown-ups who are using grown-up House members who are using the bathroom on Capitol Hill. I mean, I'm sort of a figure it out yourself.
I think, and a more important issue, violence against trans people is a real thing. According to the Human Rights Campaign, there have been 36 fatal acts of violence against transgender people in the last year, 372 in the last decade or so, and that's only fatalities. And so intimidation, threats, actual violence that didn't lead to death, certainly to be a lot higher. The Williams Institute, which I mentioned before, they estimate that transgender people are over 4 times more likely than cisgender people to experience violent victimization, over twice as likely to experience property victimization. So this is a real thing. And that's why I think a lot of people who are either trans or supporters or, allies in that community say that this is the civil rights struggle of our time. And it's very similar to the civil rights struggle in a lot of people's views on the left that we saw in the 50s and 60s with black Americans, or in the 60s and 70s with women. And I wanted to get your take on that. Do you see the current push for greater rights and recognition and decent treatment of trans people as being kind of in line with that sort of historical march of civil rights? Or do you think this is different in some way? We hope you enjoyed this preview of our supporters exclusive midweek show. If you'd like to hear the rest of the episode, we hope you'll consider becoming a supporter. Supporters get ad-free access to all of our shows, membership in our Politics Guys Discord group where you can join in on the conversation, and other benefits at different levels of support. To become a supporter, go to patreon.com/politicsguys. You can also support us through Venmo or @politicsguys, or through PayPal. You'll find all of our support links in the show notes, as well as at politicsguys.com/support. And if you'd like to get the midweek show, but you're not in a position to become a financial supporter, that's not a problem. Just send me an email at mike@politicsguys.com, and I'll be happy to get that set up for you.
This podcast is part of the Democracy Group,